Hey everyone, it's Mason and you're listening to Herb Rally. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey no matter what stage you're at. Today's episode is yet another edition of the Herbalist Hour, and this time I'm joined by the Plant Cunning Podcast crew. That's AC Stauble and Isaac Hill. And I have long admired them and their work, so it was an absolute blast to have them on the show. Also, when we recorded this, a week later, I was actually interviewed by them on their show, so I'll leave a link to that episode in the podcast show notes if you want to check out my interview where they interview me on their show, the Plant Cunning Podcast. I had a lot of fun talking about frugal nutrition, herb rally behind the scenes stuff, and so on. So yeah, it was great to get to know them more by being on their show, them joining me on the Herbalist Hour, but I would love to hang out with them in person at some point, perhaps even the Plant Cunning Conference, which we talk a little bit about in this episode. In this conversation, we delve into how they met, how they got into herbalism, what does plant cunning even mean, how you get into magic. I really loved this part of the conversation. We talk about podcasting, their offerings, and a ton more. You're going to absolutely love this episode. And if you're not already, I'm sure there's some overlap between our audiences, but if you're not already subscribed to them on YouTube and the podcast, definitely hit pause now and go subscribe to Plant Cunning Podcast on your podcast player of choice or on YouTube. Also, before we get into the show, I'd love to thank our presenting sponsor, and that is, of course, Oshala Farm. Learn more about Oshala Farm at oshalafarm.com. They grow and sell over 80 medicinal plants at their beautiful Southern Oregon farm. So if you're looking for U.S. grown, organically grown herbs, definitely check out Oshala Farm. They also have an event coming up this summer. It's called Herb Camp. I will be sure to leave a link to that in the podcast show notes as well. But yeah, once again, if you're looking for some herbs, please support Oshala Farm. They're amazing people, great family business, and they help support the Herbalist Hour. So really, really appreciate it. If you do end up placing an order with Oshala Farm, would you do me a favor? Would you let them know that you found out about them through us? That would really help us out a lot. So thank you so much. And last but not least, I'd like to thank our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to learn more about the Herb Rally Schoolhouse, simply go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse. And you can use coupon code PODCAST at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. Then it's only $10 a month after that. So that's going to do it for me today. Enjoy today's episode with AC Stauble and Isaac Hill from the Plant Cunning Podcast. Talk to you very, very soon.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today, I'm really excited to have on the Plant Cunning Podcast crew. That's AC Stauble and Isaac Hill. Welcome to the show, you two.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, really excited.
Mm-hmm.
Same. And I just posted in the Herb Rally Schoolhouse Facebook group. I said we'll be interviewing you two and our good friend Logan Keister. Not sure if you know Logan yet, but he's an awesome herbalist, and he said two of my favorite podcasts combined. So,
woo, yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, exactly. And I'm excited to get to know you two a little bit more. So why don't we start from the beginning? Well, let's start from you two's beginning, if that's how you say it. How did you two meet?
We met traveling on the road when I was traveling around in my mini school bus apothecary called the Butter Bus. And Isaac was traveling with his band, The Hills and the Rivers. And we met playing a game at a rainbow gathering. And then again at this house show with a band called the Rail Yard Ghosts in Arizona. And I remember just seeing him by the fire playing his instrument and being like, who is this future husband? It was like an immediate, like, this person's going to be in my life for a minute. And so we had this really long courtship where we didn't see each other for months because we were both travelers. And I was in Herb School of Seven Song for some of that time. And then we decided to just like move to the same place and start, a life together, and haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything to add to that, Isaac?
Well, yeah, we got together. I played a house show. Like when we got together, I played a house show at her place in Ithaca, where she was studying with Seven Song. And that's also where I was born, so it was like one of those fun moments there.
Yeah, I remember he was like dropping names on the dropping Latin names of plants on the porch, and I was like,
that's so hot.
Yeah. I think being a giant plant nerd is good in like herbalist community, situations. But most of the time people are not like, oh, Asimina triloba, I love
Berberis nervosa.
Yeah.
Ooh.
They're like, you're a nerd.
Yeah. Well, y'all are back in, I want to say, is it like central New York now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We live in a little herb farm and homestead in the central New York region near Cooperstown and Utica. And
Is that close to Ithaca? My geography's all
it's
off.
about an hour and a half
Oh,
east of
not too shabby.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually
Yeah.
just went back to visit Seven Song. We had lunch a few weeks ago. So
Nice. I love that guy.
I
Uh,
know, me too.
well, awesome. Well, you mentioned studying with Seven Song. Uh, what are your herbal origins otherwise, AC? How'd you get into this whole plant thing?
Well, I grew up really loving nature. So there's that. Most herbalists do have some connection from an early age to nature, I find. And in my 20s, I started running a little technology cafe that we did computer repair, website design, and I was trying to source local teas. And so that brought me to the plant people, which was they started taking me on plant walks and telling me about herbs for my asthma. And I started trying herbs and seeing how they really impacted my health and my life quite well. And I switched gears from the tech collective at a certain point to go live and work at an herb farm called Tweefontein Herb Farm in the Hudson Valley, New York, which was a beautiful property with a collectively run business model where 7 of us would make herbal products, grow the herbs that we use, and bring them to New York City's Union Square market. So it was a huge market. We had like 15,000 people a day coming by our stand. And there I realized like I just did not know anything about herbs. Like people would ask me questions about their health. I'm like, I'm just the grower. I don't, I'm not sure. So that kind of sparked my studies. And I started a once-a-month program with a local New Paltz herbalist, Helena Shepko. And she is a Ukrainian-American herbalist who taught me a lot about how to use plants in your daily diet. And it was kind of a really nice like intro to herbalism, and just continuing studying from there. Eventually ended up with Seven Song at the Northeast School of Botanical Medicine in Ithaca. And yeah, I just am constantly learning, constantly trying to take herbal workshops, go to conferences, all the things that we do where we never stop learning as herbalists. But yeah, that's basically my origin story.
And now you get to interview all sorts of herbalists and continue the learning. Are you currently taking any sort of courses right now?
I not at the moment. I'm not taking it. I have my
Perimenopause one.
I just finished a course with April Coburn on perimenopause.
Oh, nice.
Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. And it was a 5-week course, and I learned so much. And it's something that is really important for me to learn right now, because not only am I entering, I'm 37, so I'm kind of like entering closer towards that perimenopause age myself, but most of my friends and so many of my herbal clients are in the perimenopause phase. So many people are hungry for classes on it. I would love to be able to like teach a workshop to my local community about it, and just support people in this like transition that can be challenging. So
totally. Yeah, April's been on the Herbalist Hour before. She was an awesome interview. Has she been on your show yet?
Not yet. I would love to have her though. She's so cool.
Totes.
I really love her like down to earth, and she's so smart and talented. So I'm really impressed by April.
Absolutely. How about you, Isaac? How'd you get on the plant path?
Well, I was homeschooled until like 9th grade, and so I was kind of allowed to be. Also, there's woods behind the house, and I was allowed to just kind of roam in the woods all day. Not all day. I had like studies too, but
Sure.
I grew up in the woods a lot of the time, playing in the creek, learning the plants, and I like I was able to make my own like syllabuses, syllabi or curriculum sometimes. And so one of my courses that I like self-motivated courses was learning all the wild edibles in the forest when I was about 9. So that was like a really, important time in that plant path. And I got to really learn all the different plants and like what they're used for. And I started eating pokeweed when I was 9, and black cherries and all those sassafras, all those plants. So, and then I always like enjoyed being in the woods throughout my life, but I after college, I got into permaculture more. And so I had the opportunity. I was allowed to utilize a little less than an acre area, and I got to experiment there and try out all these permaculture techniques and stuff and collect plants there. So I did that while also doing the music thing throughout my 20s. And then so just all kind of continually built that love of plants. So I'm not an herbalist, but I'm definitely a plant guy.
Oh, I could tell. Your parents seem like pretty cool people. Are they into herbs and all that as well?
My mom is to a certain degree. Like she had like Susan Weed books and Rosemary Gladstar books, and so and like all other kind of books too. That like we sorry, our little puppy is
he's on one.
Yeah, he's
bring him in. Oh, so cute.
It's persimmon.
Oh my goodness. Hi, persimmon. So if you're only listening on the audio, you should treat yourself and watch the YouTube video for all this cuteness that's going on. You call him, is it here?
We call him Percy. Yeah, it's a boy.
Percy. Okay, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, because he's a little sweet sugar plum, like a persimmon.
Yeah.
Adorbs.
And Percy's a good, like, it's good to have a 2-syllable name with a E, like a hard, like a consonant, and then and an E, like Percy or Macy or something like that.
Very important.
Yeah.
I was called Macy in high school on occasion.
Nice.
That's funny.
But dear listener, do not call me Macy.
Yeah,
you call me Mace if you want.
Hand down. It's Mace or Mason. Okay.
Yeah.
Mace is a little bit more masculine.
Yeah.
It's like a weapon.
Totally.
Love that.
Oh, that's right.
We're the herb too. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, Isaac.
Oh, yeah. So my mom always was interested in that. She was like the black sheep of her family. She's the one who wanted to homeschool us. Then she unschooled us. Then she went on this like whole, new age thing. And
sure.
So we were kind of along for the ride in her like development from like being like a conservative, like Mennonite to, going through that whole progression. So my dad's like a software engineer type. He not as interested in, but he was, his father was born on a homestead in central West Virginia, and I would visit my grandfather and learn some of that kind of stuff, and that's in the blood as well. Like both of my great grandparents lived on homesteads, grew plants. And my mom's side, my grandmother, grows a garden, so that was always there too.
Just a lifestyle, absolutely. And you have Mennonite in your background, and is it Percy Amish?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Percy. Yeah, in central New York, we have a lot of Amish families. The land is relatively inexpensive. There's less like regulations out here compared to like closer to Albany or New York City. And there's a lot of old farms that are kind of going to waste. So the Amish have moved in a couple different communities, and it's been really interesting to see how they do things. Mm-hmm. And also they have wonderful dogs.
Yeah.
Just a quick break from the show to thank our presenting sponsor, Oshala Farm. Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic herb farm based in Southern Oregon, where they grow and sell over 80 different plant species. The founders, Elise and Jeff Higley, have been longtime friends, so I highly trust their growing methods and ethics. You'll love the potency and vibrancy of all the herbs they have to offer. To learn more and purchase their herbs and other organic goods, head to oshalafarm.com. So thanks once again to Oshala Farm for sponsoring the Herbalist Hour. Now back to the show. Enjoy. Well, tell us a little bit about your farm. Is it Cohosh Creek?
Yeah, we call it Cohosh Creek Herb Farm, and it's about 7 acres, and we have a little pond and some creeks, and we've been growing tons of medicinal herbs and fruit and nut trees. And we have a big red barn that we are able to host events in. And when we first moved in, it was full of stuff like epically hoarder level layers of poop.
I like to refer to it as a crap sandwich. On the bottom, there was like century old cow manure, and in the middle was just like crap from people that they like hoarded for
stuff,
decades.
Antiques.
And then on top was a layer of pigeon poop. So crap sandwich.
Yeah.
But we cleaned all that out.
Yep. Now it's gorgeous, like beautiful hand-hewn beams and lots of space.
It's a really beautiful barn. Yeah.
Yeah. So we love it here. We're super blessed to have found this place. It's an absolute dream come true for us to be able to have a place that we can grow and gather our friends and community. We didn't know much about this area. We were living like an hour away when we were looking at places, but we really lucked out with neighbors. And there's an amazing ag scene here with other herb farms and permaculture projects and potlucks and coffee shops are opening up. And yeah, it's just like a really cool place to be. So
yeah, part of it is, I mean, we got here in 2019, November of 2019, right before all that happened. So it was a good time to get a place. We probably wouldn't have been able to, but this area is like, it's relatively inexpensive. So people are moving here because, you know, you can't live in Hudson Valley anymore or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, so you're hosting a conference, which we'll get more into later, but you're saying that this is not a crap sandwich that people are going to be attending. It's all beautiful and cleaned up now.
It's definitely not a crap sandwich anymore.
Okay.
We power washed it.
Yep.
For like days of power washing.
I
mean, we cleaned everything out, put a new floor. And the wood underneath is just so gorgeous. It's it's old growth elm and cherry and red pine, red oak from the 1800s, and they sheathed it in metal, so it's been kept dry over the century or so. I mean, they probably did that in like the 20s or 30s, maybe 40s, 50s. But like a lot of barns around here have gotten wet and then they're all falling down. But this one has retained its magnificence. So really a privilege to be able to like take care of that barn, actually, because it's like I can consider it like a living entity.
Right.
And you could tell when you cleaned it out, it loved it, and it loved having people in there, and it loved having music in there, because the whole, like, those old hand hewn, it's all wood, it resonates. The whole thing resonates, when you're playing music in it. So it's a special place. Yeah.
Did you end up doing anything with the apple orchard?
Yeah, so that's what we're doing right now.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have this ancient apple orchard. I mean, I'm not sure how old the apple trees are. Probably 80 years old, maybe 100. But it's been overgrown with ash and cherry, and the emerald ash borer has only just arrived to this area. And I remember like 12 years ago in Pittsburgh, it decimated all of the ash trees, and now you can see these giant ash trees that are dying, and it's very sad. But it also gives me an excuse to be able to take out all those ash trees from the apple area, and that's like the first step in the process of rehabilitating that area. Give the apple trees more light, and then I'll start pruning them down, because it takes a while to rehabilitate the apple trees. You can't just like cut them back all at once.
Sure.
But the apples are great. They still produce, and there's some really unique ones. There's some that have like little, it's like white flesh with pink kind of veination on the inside, and there's some goldens and all sorts of really tasty apples.
Yeah, I wasn't even able to identify some of them. I might send them into Cornell and see, because last year wasn't a good apple year because of the late frost. But yeah, I'm excited to rehabilitate that space. And also, it's a lot of good firewood, because we heat with wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the ash. So,
do you use the apples in any of your products, AC? By the way, that's the travelingerbfarmer.com.
Yeah, I have a little herb business, Traveling Herb Farmer. Not apples, but I would like to make my own apple cider vinegar if we have a good apple year this year, because I've made fire cider a lot in the past. Love me some fire cider. I was a huge advocate during the whole fire cider fiasco.
Debacle, yep.
Yeah, I was just like furious, and would lead tons of fire cider workshops all over the country. Wherever I'd go, I'd be giving out flyers and zines on how to make fire cider. So I would love to make that. But yeah, I don't have any apple specific products at the moment. Yeah.
There are a lot of other fantastic plants that are already here though too.
Oh yeah.
So like
so
hawthorn
many.
Like she makes a lot of hawthorn. There's wild hawthorn everywhere here.
Yeah.
And bone set,
Cohosh.
blackberry, very cohosh.
Cohosh.
Yeah, we have more of the blue cohosh and also the red baneberry, which is also called a red cohosh. So we're planting some of the black cohosh too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some
the goldenrod and New England aster and elecampane and mullein, tons of plantain, tons of red clover. It's like we could have not even planted an herb and still an herb farm.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
We're also planting like, hundreds of species of herbs and trees and so on.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, this is kind of like the northern hardwoods more. It's a maple and birch and some hemlock and white pine, but more like red maple, sugar maple. We have a sugar bush. We've been boiling down sap. But there's not a lot of the spice bush and the sassafras and those kind of trees and plants. So we're putting some more of those in this area because I'm seeing, like this with the way that the climate is changing, like I see that happening, and I'm trying to like make some places for those plants to spread too,
Like as it gets warmer here, they'll do better here.
And they already are. There are a few spaces in this immediate area where we are. It's a little colder, but there are a few places where there's spice bush, and they're just like starting to really like take root there. But yeah, so we're doing a lot of those more native and like close to native plants, as well as like the permaculture, like persimmons. Well, persimmons are actually also a native that's not quite native here, but is now. Like we had like a zone 7 winter this winter, and we're a zone is considered zone 4 20 years ago. So like we didn't even get below 0. Like
does that mean it's getting warmer? Is that what you're saying? Zone 7 versus zone 4?
Yeah. Zone 7 is warmer. So like
okay.
Zone 4 was like we would get below 20-degree winters and like feet of snow, and zone 7 is a little bit more like coastal, like Cape Cod
or Virginia. This isn't a zone 7, but we had a zone 7 winter. It didn't get below. It barely got below 10 degrees. And that's usually there's like 2 weeks where it's like negative 20 at least. So
yeah, my wife she grew up in Wisconsin. We just moved to Wisconsin last year. This is my first Wisconsin winter, and it was easy. It snowed once, like a big snow, and it stayed for about a week. But it's like, it feels like spring out there. I was just out there in a t-shirt and no shoes or socks on. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So
in early March. Yeah, it's wild.
Very wild. But Isaac, I want to say, you said you don't consider yourself an herbalist, but just listening to you talk, I want to say I want to declare you're an herbalist. All right.
I declare.
Well, you're on the Herbalist Hour too, so you got to be in some way, shape, or form. But let's talk a little.
So much, yeah.
You know a lot, and I was talking with my aunt Abby, and she was asking me all these questions, and she doesn't consider herself an herbalist either. And I'm like, Abby, you know way more than I do. She's been doing this for decades. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a state of mind, but yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your podcast. It's called the Plant Cunning Podcast. Be sure to pause the episode, go and subscribe to their show on your podcast player of choice. First of all, I'd love to hear you define what plant cunning is. Feel free to take it away, either of you.
Yes.
Yeah,
so the cunning folk were the village healers in England and in English colonial America. So they were cunning because they knew how to do things. So cunning really comes from knowing, and not just knowing, but like having skill. And so it doesn't have the connotation of being like tricky as much,
right?
In the old way. So the cunning folk, the cunning men and women, like wise women, the village wizards, they would know all the herbs. They would know how to heal, and they would also know like magic and divination. So, and this is something that you find throughout cultures across the world, all traditional cultures. Oftentimes, like the village wise person, they know the herbs, and they also know how to heal the physical ailments, but they also know the spiritual ailments as well, and how to work with those. So that's kind of the idea behind the podcast. We interview a lot of herbalists, and we interview like very science-based herbalists like Seven Song, but we also interview astrologers, magicians, and spiritual practitioners, and like other kinds of healing, like energy healing too. Partly because that's what we're interested in,
Sure,
and it
of
gives
course.
us a chance. Yeah. Yeah. So it gives us a chance to like talk with these people, like read their books and then speak with them. And then like, it gives us a chance to learn. And then it also helps maybe expand the networks of people who are maybe they know about herbs, but they want to know more about other kinds of healing, and they want to see like who are the teachers here. If I want to take a class or if I want to get a book, who are the people who know about astrology, and who do I really vibe with? So that's part of the thrust, the purpose of the podcast. Yeah.
Why do you think cunning has like a negative connotation these days?
Well, I mean, part of it is, I mean, that's just the way language goes. Part of
Sure.
it is also why the word like witch has a very negative connotation. I mean, it's changed too, but also like even like there are other words like
That's probably why, because if the cunning folk were associated as witches and wizards and magic,
That's the point.
then it became taboo. It became like, oh, you're a trickster because magic is not real and
Yeah.
herbs can't work. Like, with um the separation of like healing from like the natural healing methods with the more like scientific, material reductionist
Sure.
model that we have been adopting. So I think that's part of it too.
yeah, it has to be a trick. I mean, that may be
Yeah.
it. I
Right.
think there may be other reasons too, but yeah,
Mm.
anything that's not explained by science
Yeah.
is either that person is lying and being a trickster, or they're a fool.
Mhm.
And that's not true. I don't think that's true. But that serves the dominant paradigm. So maybe that's why.
That's why I love herbalists, is because I feel like we have a really good grasp on both the science and the magic. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
we try to do that with our show, as well as have all sorts of different backgrounds on, so we could kind of learn from all the different, viewpoints and all that. And yeah, it definitely interests me as well. Um, Speaking of magic, I know you do have a lot of like astrology episodes and magic episodes. How would you how would you recommend someone who's not too familiar with the magic side, someone kind of just dip their toe in and try to maybe live a little more magical life?
Hmm. I think since this is primarily people who are listening are primarily are plant lovers and nature lovers, I think they already experience the magic of nature every time they go out to their sit spot and sit on a beautiful rock by a stream or on a mountain or in the desert. And I think the best way to really like feel that magic is to just sort of drop into the place and the spirit of place and to listen and to try to open up the more than ears type of listening, but like the heart centered listening where you like drop from your head into your heart and you're open to experience like the wonder of nature, because sometimes you'll receive messages or sometimes you'll have realizations. And I think that we underestimate our own individual power to create and influence the world around us, to create change or influence the world around us. Because when we go out into nature with this like open heart and this gratitude that often, we experience in just being in such beautiful places, I feel like the animals around and the plants around appreciate that and they respond to that. But if we go out there with anger and frustration and feeling like hungry for power and our chainsaws just like coming through the forest, like that creates a different feeling. So I don't know. I think the wonder of nature is the best way to get in touch with magic. And you start to realize that you can change things. I think magic is a lot about just like finding your own power to mitigate your situation and the surroundings and to drop into this like centered, rooted feeling to be able to like move back out into the world.
And so also when we talk about magic, there kind of are a lot of different things that word means too. And there are a lot of different definitions for what magic is. And I think one of the especially for the listeners of this podcast, I think one of the easiest entrances into the world of magic is like via natural magic, and just finding out the other uses of herbs, and those are in like the Encyclopedia of Natural Magic by John Michael Greer is a good one, a good book to get if you want to get involved in that. But there are a lot of other ones. But one of the ways of looking at magic is that there's a definition from the early 20th century about it's causing change in consciousness in accordance with will. And that might not seem that like a lot at first, but if you really think about what consciousness is and what consciousness means, from an esoteric perspective, the world is consciousness. Consciousness is not an epiphenomena of nature, of matter. Matter actually comes from consciousness. And so by changing your mind and being able to, like wearing a solar herb you collect it at the right time when the sun was in the midheaven on the day of the sun, Sunday, and putting that close to your heart and wearing that, you feel more confident. You feel more like you have better vision. You're more solar, and so it's tapping you into this subtle web of causality. It's maybe not even causality; it's correlation. It's the everything is connected, and in a way that is more than just the physical. But even just from looking at it from a physical and like a psychological perspective, there's a lot of value in using these techniques like magical herbalism, astrological herbalism. So that's what I would suggest for especially herbalists to get into is looking at the natural magic aspects and trying it for yourself, like collecting St. John's wort in the hour of the sun on the solar, the solstice, and wearing it on your heart, something like that. Yeah, there's a lot of other things too.
Sure.
One other thing that just came to mind too is like ways of protecting and clearing ourselves. So as herbalists, we're meeting with so many people in our community that have health problems, psychological problems, like, all sorts of things going on. And some of the first things that I was interested in magic were like how to cleanse myself from negative experiences and how to protect myself from negative experience, especially being on the road as a traveler. Like all sorts of things can get thrown at you. And so I have these like simple little protection rituals that you can get more complex with, but just like a sphere of protection, a circle of protection where you imagine a ball of white light or a pillar of white light coming through you where nothing can permeate that barrier that you're creating around your energetic field other than love, And when I was traveling, I would do that circle of protection around the bus and I would ground it to the road. And so every time wherever I went, because you're always moving when you're traveling, like it was grounded to the pavement itself, to the stone of the earth. And I swear I got out of some really hairy situations. Like that bus had some magic around it, driving on cliffs without a rear axle attached, for example. And, sometimes I would do a shield of invisibility. If I would see like state troopers on the side of the road, I'd be like, okay, shield of invisibility or shield of somebody else's problem. And they would just be like, oh, I don't want to look at that bus. Like that would be so annoying to pull them over and flip the whole bus,
Right.
We would be targeted as like a school bus of traveling kids. So yeah, so that kind of things. And then clearing, like after any sort of session, just spending time barefoot in nature to like ground and release into the earth, doing a cleansing bath with herbs and salts, a ritual bath that you can use cleansing herbs, and then take a bucket of the bath water and pour it to a trusted tree friend who can handle that negative energy much better than you and release it. What?
Yeah, they like feed on it. It's like our carbon.
Yeah.
Then it's the same way with etheric energy.
Or just like washing your hands and face if you can't take a bath after, an herbal session, and kind of like, or using smoke, using burning herbs, like, so protection and the cleansing rituals, I think, are actually a really good place to start, because then you're grounded in like the safety of your energetic field being protected before you start engaging with other, you know, entities or other spirits or whatever it is that you're getting into.
Yeah, and I think a lot of herbalists actually know about this. Like they do cleansing and protection rituals, and like people call it smudging now. And maybe like you should use a different word, or if you're getting white sage, you should only get it from ethically harvested sources. But there are a lot of other herbs that you can use for that. Like mugwort is a fantastic herb, cedar, red cedar, and those are traditional, long time, and bathing your field in like that cleansing herbal smoke can be a very helpful thing, and a lot of people do that already. Mm-hmm. But I think part of it also is like it's recognizing the subtle framework and recognizing it's the relationship too, between everything, and that's interacting with that is part of what magic is. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, just listening to you two talk, I'm like having these thoughts of things that I didn't necessarily consider magic that I was already doing.
Right.
So I really appreciate that. AC, you were saying, I mean, I want to distill down the first part of what you were saying. It was like presence, gratitude, and being in nature.
Mm.
And I just really vibed with that. I'll share like a story. I did psilocybin once, and I was walking in the South Eugene Hills. I was actually with a friend, and we were walking down the hill, and there was a deer. There was a couple of deer, and I swear we walked right by it, and we were probably like 10 feet away. And I feel like normally it would have been skittish and just bounced away, but like it was just chilling there. I feel like we were just hanging out with it. And you were talking about the presence and the animals like just coming around and not being bothered by you. And I feel like the psilocybin had me so present in that moment that it just felt like this whole magical experience. But yeah, I do want to say we have a Herb Rally Schoolhouse member joining us right now, Diana. So Diana says, love this interview and the topics of magic you're exploring. Do you both work with the elements and directions in ceremony or ritual?
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
I think that's pretty foundational to a lot of most traditions is the elements and the directions. And there's a lot of different ways to do that too. And I've worked with them in different ways. I really like even like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And it is a way of working with the directions and the elements.
What is that?
So it's one of the foundational rituals from the Golden Dawn, which is a very influential order from the late 19th century. And I'm actually putting out a book in April called The Heathen Golden Dawn, which is using Golden Dawn ceremonial techniques with Norse and Germanic symbolism and the deities and runes and so on, because the original Golden Dawn used more Egyptian and Christian and Jewish words and names of God and so on, divine names. But so with the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, you call an angel in each of the four directions, and you call in divine names, and so you're cleansing the area that you're in and your own etheric and astral bodies. And
it's like a ritual. Like if you've ever called in the 7 directions or the 4 directions, like you're calling in each direction, and a like Archangel Michael, for example, from one direction, and you're drawing this pentagram in, like, you imagine like a blue flame, like
so you're visualizing
it's a whole ceremony, and it's pretty quick, and it clears your space and yourself and offers like a field of protection, kind of like I do the circle of protection.
Yeah, and it's a good way, especially something to do before meditating. Another one that's really good is the sphere of protection, with like the more elaborate one where you call 7 directions. You do each of the 4 directions, and then spirit above, spirit below, and spirit within. And that's a really great ritual too, which there are a lot of different versions online. You can look up all these online. And those are a little bit more intense than just like a basic sphere of like a cleansing sphere, white sphere, or like other rituals, but they don't take that long either, and they also build with repetition too. So it's something you do every day, and then it like really cleanses and you can feel it when you're drawing these pentagrams on the level of the physical level with your hand, as well as the mental level by visualizing that. And then and so that's another thing that I think about when with the esoteric worldview, which a lot of people like, they think it's very woo woo, but if you just look at like the physical realm is what you can touch and taste and experience in that way, but the etheric realm is just the realm of energy. So like when you're in a car and you go over a bump and you go woo, or when you're in an elevator and you can feel like that's your etheric body and physical body separating slightly, and that's the chi, the prana, and then the astral plane is just the mind. It's thoughts, images, and we experience this every day, and then there's the even higher plane of pure consciousness, which you also experience at all times. It's very difficult to recognize because one thing you can do to do that is just ask yourself, how am I conscious, or am I awake? And there's an immediate thing that happens where you are conscious of being conscious. And that's kind of like the spiritual plane. And all those planes can be your awareness of those planes can be developed through practice,
Absolutely.
And just one other thought on like an example of in my life of using the directions. I'm just thinking of anytime I build an altar, I'm like incorporating the directions into it. And we have a monthly, every full moon, a women's circle. And so people will bring altar items and we'll like honor the directions with water in the west and a feather in the east and a special stone or like root in the north and a fire, like a candle in the south, or bright red stone in the south or something like that. And yeah, just little things like that in, daily altar building or rituals, like a women's circle, like calling in the directions creates this container, and then, releasing them at the end, breaks that container. And so it just creates like a really safe and special environment in the air. And it's just like, I don't know, the directions, the elements, like they're an integral part. Yeah. So I'm glad that your listener asked that question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Diana, and thanks for joining us live. Yeah, she says totally relate. Does the altar get disassembled after each women's session?
Yeah.
And then you build it up next time? Okay.
Everyone brings like an altar item that's special to them. And then when it's our turn to speak, instead of passing like a talking item, people will just pick an item from the altar to hold for their turn to speak.
I just had deja vu big time. That's so crazy.
Really? I love that, Mason.
I'm like, oh, wow, that is so bizarre.
Cool.
Well, yeah. All right, let me recenter myself. Oh yeah, right before this episode too, I before jumping on the call, I was saying I was barefoot in our 0.1 acre yard, so it's not too naturey, but I was just like staring at the sun, just trying to center myself and prepare myself for the episode. So I guess that was a little bit of magic there as well.
You got it.
So seems like a nice transition to chat a little bit about Isaac's offerings. I don't know if they're new offerings or not, but before we get into that, I want to say a little testimonial from a friend left it on your Facebook profile page. And they say, Isaac Alexander Salamander Hill offers really incredible Vedic astrology. Is it Jyotish?
Jyotish, yeah.
Jyotish readings. The wealth of knowledge he shares is a gift, and he is endlessly pursuing more to share. I'm very grateful for a recent reading I had with Isaac as it opened new doors to self-exploration and clarity that I didn't even realize were there. Wow, what a journey we're on. Plus, he offers remedies in the form of service work and mantras to help with the difficult or helpful aspects in your own chart. Check it out if you want to dive deeper. So I just thought that was a nice introduction to these offerings that you have. So can you tell us more about that, Isaac?
Sure, yeah. So I've been studying astrology for a while now, but I've more recently I've completed a program with Freedom Cole in a specific tradition of of Vedic astrology. That it's the Kutananda Das tradition that Sanjay Roth is the like lineage holder for, and he's a famous astrologer in India. And so I've completed the main course, and then I'm doing now more advanced studies in that tradition. And so and I really wanted to study in this tradition because one, it's like an unbroken tradition. So like Sanjay Roth's grandfather was the last royal astrologer in Orisha, and then that family tradition goes back for many centuries. But the other thing is that they offer remedies, which a lot of Western astrologers don't. And so the way I see it is like, and the tradition sees it, is you look at the karmic framework of a person, like the archetypical framework is another way of saying it, and you can see like where problems are and like why there are certain problems, and then also offer some remedies. And those remedies often are like mantras or service work or donation to particular charities. Like, say for instance, if you have like some certain depressive thoughts and it's because like the moon in your chart is afflicted by Saturn and Rahu, then you would donate to mothers with a lot of trauma, and that kind of like heals the wound out in the world as well as healing the wound within, because we are all connected and we're microcosm of the macrocosm. And so that there's those kind of remedies. And yeah, I'm now doing it as donation until I've completed these other more advanced studies, which I like donation because people can give what they see as the value and what they have too. And people have been donating enough to make it worthwhile to do. And I've also to learn from each of these readings too. So yeah, I'm offering basic remedies and the chart reading currently. So if people want to do that, they can email me at info@plantcunning.com, info@plantcunning.com, and we can set up a reading. Yeah.
Did you say how long they last, the readings?
About an hour. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. We'll like go over the chart with you, look at some timing techniques too, like when certain planetary combinations are getting activated. Like if you're in a rough time, is that going to keep going, or is it going to get better soon? Those kind of things too. So
how about like help with, say, childhood trauma? Anything?
Well, you have to look at the chart, and so every chart is very different. Childhood trauma is often going to be shown by like afflictions to the fourth house.
Okay.
Or even afflictions to the moon. The moon shows your mind as well as your mother, and that also shows how those are related, Like if you have a mother who is very traumatized, then your mind is going to be more anxious, What
do the remedies consist of?
So some of them are donations to charity, like I said. Some of them are mantras to a specific. Okay. Yeah, so I can do some basic remedy mantras that I've already done, Yeah. And some of them are like Vishnu avatars, and you're calling in that energy of that. Vishnu is God, like the big. In the way I see it, the name Vishnu means the same thing as Great Spirit or the God with a capital G, and then he incarnates as different avatars, and by bringing that energy in, you're helping ease the whatever that planet is relating to as well. So it's kind of like helping to ease the difficulty of certain energies, or helping to set, like, because the way I see the reality is like everything is downstream of consciousness, and so by working on like the higher level of consciousness, then you're creating opportunities for things to change. But yeah. Perfect. So mantras, and then there are also mantras donation, pujas too, which are a little bit more difficult for a lot of people. They're like, those are specific Vedic ceremonies that you like hire a Vedic priest to do, and I can suggest which ones would be good, but like I don't do that myself, and you have to get in contact with a Vedic priest. So that's like less easy for like a white person in America who has no contact with a Hindu temple or any pujaris. But there are some places you can do that online. And then also I have been, because I also study like astrological magic previously with like the Picatrix, which is a 10th century, it's Latin, comes from Arabic, manual of astrological magic. So there are other kind of remedies too that you can do, and connecting with, even like if you're more into Greek gods, then you can work with Aphrodite if you're having Venus problems, or Jupiter if you're having other problems, problems with a teacher or problems with a husband. So yeah, and even Christian, like there are a lot of saints, there's a lot of archangels that you can work with too, and so I can kind of see which archetypical which archetype is being triggered, and point to the right energy, the deity, or the right pantheon. Yeah. Well, which deity or which archangel in that pantheon would be helpful. So yeah.
So after one session, do you feel like your client will have a toolkit and like a game plan for moving forward, or do you think that maybe they'll want to meet with you again, say in like 6 months or so, like that?
Yeah, so it depends also on the client, what's going on with them, if they're having like major problems, if it's just like a little thing. And some people come to me and there's a lot going on that is not going to be remedied very easily or very quickly. And some people are just their life's pretty good. They just kind of want to see what's going on with them, and then I connect them with the right mantra, and then they're happy, and that's all they need. But generally, like 6 months, a year, 2 years is a good time to come back. A year is usually a good time, like birthday or something like that. Also when the time periods change, because there's like a dasha system. It's like a time period system. There's like chapters in your life and then sub chapters, and each of those like changes when those change, and that varies between like 6 months to 5 years, the smaller time periods. So whenever those are changing, that's another good time to get a reading.
But some people will just do the one-off because they want to know what their chart looks like from the Vedic astrology perspective, and it is just so detailed. Like the Vedic astrology can just get down and to the very like minute details, like more so than other like Western astrology readings that I've had. I'm really glad that Isaac's studying with freedom and learning these Vedic.
Yeah, I'm still beginning too, so like there's I've got a lot to learn.
Hence the donation-based charging method. But so I read that really sweet testimonial from your friend. Have you heard other great testimonials thus far of people that have had readings?
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the people who have had readings are very pleased with them.
And they're telling their friends and pointing their friends to Isaac. So
that feels good. The thing with astrology is like I've been doing it for a while, and it's like I want to offer something of value to people. I want to be helpful to people, and so this tradition seems like the best way that I can do that in this realm. So, yeah.
AC, have you had your reading?
Yeah, I mean, he's like keeping me in the loop on all of my like cycles, and
That's awesome.
Reading. And sometimes, like as like as an herbalist, it's a little bit hard to read for your spouse or to like do an herbal consultation for your spouse or someone that's close to you. So I still actually do want to get another reading from one of Isaac's classmates just for an outside perspective, because there's that thing that happens when somebody's too close to you. You know what I mean?
It's hard to be
absolutely.
Yeah, it's hard to be objective. Yeah.
Well, Isaac, hold me accountable. I'm going to hit you up. I'm going to get one for sure. So
you'll love it.
All right. Yeah, I'm stoked. Well, sweet. Well, why don't we transition to AC's offerings? Why don't you tell what you have going on with the traveling herb farmer?
Okay, sure. I make herbal products. So I grow the herbs and I use all organic ingredients and make herbal skin salves and muscle rubs and some tinctures. I make a lot of tinctures and glycerites and formulas. So I make like a bitters blend and a clear mind for mental clarity, which a lot of people really enjoy, and a heart helper blend and a grief support. So I really love making tinctures. That's like my favorite thing to do, is working with the plants in that way. And I also love vending at herbal events or just local events. And I do the farmers market in Cooperstown every other week on Saturdays. And it's a great way to like get herbs out there to people. You know, some people have never seen a tincture in real life. Are these essential oils? And I'm like,
Right.
no, please don't put it in your mouth. Or please don't put essential oils in your mouth.
Right.
But yeah, so I love being able to like expose people to herbs, and they try the salve or they try the muscle rub and they do the loop and they're like, wow, my skin feels great, or wow, my knee pain went away. And I'm like, yeah, herbs work sometimes. It's great. So I like to do the local vending, and I also really love teaching, and I have apprentices or interns that come to the farm and work with me in the herbal apothecary kitchen, making the medicine, or in the fields or in the forest harvesting. And I really want to lean more and more into teaching because it just lights me up. Like, I don't want to become a salve factory where I'm just like making so many salves. Like I already have made 10,000 salves in my life. I kid you not. I have like a giant salve melter that makes 500 at a time. And I am realizing as I'm getting older, like the carpal tunnel is real from pouring and harvesting, and like my physical body is not going to be able to like keep up in the long run. You know, I'm already like thinking about, as I'm like an older person, like how will I sustain myself? And I think herbal education is it. It's like makes me really happy to lead a plant walk or to teach classes. And I've done like a bunch of different herbal classes, like herbal 101 courses, and herbs for the respiratory system, or you know, specific body systems, how to make salve, how to make fire cider, all these things. And I want to do more of that. So this summer, I'm going to be teaching some classes at a local herb shop in Cherry Valley called Weathertop Pharmacy. And there's a little restaurant called Origins Cafe in Cooperstown, and we're going to have some workshops there, and then plant walks and things like that. So that's what I'm leaning into with my traveling herb farmer business.
Are you seeing clients as well as a clinical herbalist?
Yeah, I consider myself more of like a community herbalist than a clinical herbalist because of all of these other pursuits. I don't have a huge I feel like I can't really take on more clients because I have such a wide network of community I'm already supporting. So I am making custom blends and formulas for people at that come to the Cooperstown market, and my neighbors, like the Amish neighbors, come to me for herbs all the time. So I do see clients, but I'm not like advertising that as like open doors, like, you know, because I'm just so busy. So yeah.
Yeah.
And I see a lot. Sorry, I was just going to say, I see a lot of clients from my travels. So like when I was traveling, I met people on the road who would never go to a doctor or see, like their primary health care would be like a chat with me on the side of the road, you know? So like I keep in touch with these people. I send people care packages and free herbal medicine often. And they call me when their kids get sick or whatever. So I have like a wider network from just like the local neighbors community too, but from like my wider traveling community.
Yeah, you wear a lot of different hats. That's the true herbalist way. You're a farmer, product maker, clinical herbalist, teacher. Yeah. You'll also be teaching at the upcoming Plant Cunning Conference, which I'd like to get into.
Yeah, we have that conference coming up. So
that's July 26th to the 28th, and that's at Cohosh Creek Farm, your property. Yep. So why don't you tell us more about the event, any confirmed speakers, where people could register and all that?
Yeah. Sure. Yes. You want to start?
Okay. Well, so Pam Montgomery is going to be keynoting.
Nice.
So we've got Pam. We've got Seven Song is going to be there. And then Rebecca Beyer is going to be there as well, who's a fantastic herbalist and folk magician, Appalachian magic and Appalachian folk medicine. She's from Asheville, or Western North Carolina. And then we've got some Lisa Fazio, who's a fantastic local herbalist from Utica. And
she would be a great person to interview too, actually.
Yeah. And she does medical astrology too, but she's more focused. She's putting out a new book on Italian folk medicine.
Oh, wow.
And she's very, very intelligent, has a lot to teach. So she's going to be there. We have a gong guy who's going to do some gonging in the barn.
Like sound
Love
healing.
it.
healing.
He has
That's
like
awesome.
a wall of gongs.
Wow.
Yeah. And in the barn, it's going to be pretty cool.
I bet. Acoustics are awesome in there, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm waiting for like the whole barn to be just reverberating with gong,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
There's
Absolutely.
a group called the People's Cauldron that does mutual aid and offers free herbal medicine out of their bus in Kingston, New York. And they're going to do a mutual aid workshop where we'll ask participants to bring any first aid supplies or harm reduction supplies or tinctures or herbs. And we'll make mutual aid kits for the People's Cauldron, like while we're here as well.
Yeah, and we have Joanna Farrar from Coffee and Divination podcast. She lives in Vermont. She's a permaculturist and magician and diviner, and so she'll be there. And Zamboni Funk, who's an astrologer, will also be there. And we have a bunch of other people
There's
who
a few
are
people who are like not confirmed.
yeah, but they will be soon.
Yeah.
So, and the tickets are not available right now. By the time this comes out, they may be.
Yeah.
And that'll be at plantcunningconference.com.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You
And we
mentioned
encourage-
Zamboni Funk. He's one of your most frequented guests on your show, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we do forecasts with him. So we do like a
cool.
yearly forecast, and then we're gonna do we're gonna start doing quarterly forecasts. So, the seasons, it's when Aries, the sun goes into zero Aries is then the spring quarter. So we're gonna do one for that, and there's a lot coming up this spring with these eclipses, and all this like Pluto stuff. So yeah,
We love
he's
having
great.
him on.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So just FYI, this will probably be released in a couple months.
Okay. Yeah.
We're dropping from 2 episodes per week down to 1 episode per week because 2 is just untenable. So
Oh my gosh.
That's
so-
a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
and that's how we did it for and I still have 2 to 3 interviews scheduled all the way through like May, but I'm going to cut back after that, but that's besides the point. So plantcunningconference.com, folks could buy tickets. It'll probably be up by the time this gets released.
Sure.
A couple other things I wanted to say. Oh yeah, Isaac, is your band playing at the conference too?
We'll see. I'm thinking
Okay.
about it. I haven't been playing as much lately. I've been focusing more on like the homestead and on
Sure.
studies. But we'll see. Maybe.
We'll definitely have some live music. If not the hills
Yeah.
and the rivers, some folks will
Yeah.
rock us out on Saturday night in the barn.
Definitely.
AC, do you sing or play instruments or anything?
No, I'm not so musically inclined. I do like to sing, like when we're at the
Okay.
women's circles and stuff and around the fire and a cappella, but
Well, you play banjo. a
I
little
play
bit.
banjo a little bit.
That's awesome.
But Isaac's like a real musician, so it's sort of like the same thing as like him not calling himself an herbalist. Like
Right,
I
right,
call
right.
myself a musician in front of this guy because he's so talented.
Yeah, I watched your music video before the interview. I want to say it's called The Magician. Is that
Yeah.
right?
That's
And that was a very magical music video. I saw you drawing like the circle around the.
Yeah, it can't be, but
we did albums based on tarot cards. So
Oh, cool.
the last one we did was the Fool and the Magician. It was the two major arcana, and so we did a song and a video for the Fool and a song and a video for the Magician.
Awesome.
We did one
Oh,
for the Tower and some other ones too. So yeah.
Sweet. I'll leave a link to the music video in the podcast show notes, in the YouTube description, all that jazz. Awesome. Anything else you want to cover before we get out of here?
So by the time this comes out, we also may have our 9 herbs charm initiation online course available. And we're going to go through, do you know about the 9 herbs charm?
I don't.
So
Tell me about
it's this old English charm from the 9th century, maybe 10th century. It goes back a lot. That's when it was written down. So it goes back older. It actually references Woden. And it's one of the few references to Woden in Old English, in Anglo-Saxon. And it's a charm that uses 9 herbs, and it starts with mugwort. It says Gemini thu mugwort. It's like remember mugwort, what you said. And it addresses each of the herbs. So there's mugwort, so there's nettle, there's plantain, there's a bunch of other, there nine in total. And we're going to go through and do a 9-week course where we go through each of the herbs, do some initiation, like taking flower essences and infusions, trying to dream with the herb, cultivate a connection with the spirit of the plant, and then also go into the medical and medicinal, like herbal qualities of it too. and share stories and do that for 9 weeks and really learn the charm, learn those herbs, and get initiated into that that charm and those herbs. Yeah.
Where
And
is
that'll
that going to be available?
So it's going to be available from plantcunning.com. It's going to be our first like online course offering, like a real
Nice.
online offering, and that's kind of going alongside with the book that will be out by the time this airs too, called The Heathen Golden Dawn, which is more ceremonial magic from like a Germanic perspective, as I mentioned earlier. But this course, you don't have to be interested in ceremonial magic. You just have to be interested in these plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
And you think that'll be available by the time this comes out?
yes, and if it's not, just email us at info@plantcunning.com and we'll put you on the list.
Awesome. Well, sweet, y'all. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
has been awesome. Thank you so much, Mason, for having us. This is like dreamy. I'm like, oh my God, an herb rally? What?
Yeah, that's great. No, I feel the same way. And guess what, dear listener? I'll be on their show next week, so I'm not sure when that'll get released. But
Probably before this one.
okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, we're stacked up like 10 episodes deep right now. So like we gotta
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, this has been fabulous. Thanks again to Diana for joining on this live. Oh, Diana did say you should try to get Rising Appalachia to the event. to the
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if we have the budget for Rising Appalachia.
Yeah, I know from experience. We've actually hired them a couple times when I worked at Mountain Rose Herbs, and then we had them play when I organized the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference once. I think they gave me a massive discount when they did the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference. But yes,
They love us, Herbalist.
they really do. Yeah, they're fantastic. So, well, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks to you two for joining me on the Herbalist Hour. Shout out and thanks to Amanda for editing the episode, and thanks to you, dear listener, for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye, Mason.
Bye.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.